Good afternoon. It's Friday edition, McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the government, business side of things as well, which, of course, nowadays with the government shutdown, that's kind of what we're dealing with out there as longest one by far. Going into this weekend and no end of sight here coming up as well. Of course, we'll look at the market watch, stocks we're paying attention to, and then the local national stories that you need to know getting ready for this weekend coming up as well. We got Veterans Day next week, so programming note for you on Monday. Show will be dark on Monday. Markets are open. I just have a family thing, and I'll be gone for this show for that. And then on Tuesday, the market is closed for Veterans Day, so no show on Monday. So next week, we'll be back on Wednesday here for McCollum on Business. So come and join us live here at 11 o'clock. But here for this Friday, let's get right into it with that Market Watch. And it's just a day. Another sell-off day, right? Weak consumer sentiment. We'll talk about that. University of Michigan report that came out earlier today. Tech declines continue. That's what's hurting the stock market today out there. The Dow Jones is down 330 points, 46,647. The S&P 500 is down 80 points, 66.56 for it. The Nasdaq's down 419 points to 22,634. Then you've got the Russell 2K. The small cap index down 29 points here on this Friday. For it, 2397 is what we're looking at for that right now. And then you got Bitcoin. It is up for the day. It's about 1,100 points up right now, but it is down and still in that 102,000 range that it's been hovering at for the last couple days. 102,425 for Bitcoin here today. Stocks that we're paying attention to right now. First one we're looking at, Archer Aviation is what we're going to talk about. And they're down big here today, 15.99% right now. They're that air taxi company that's building those air taxis specifically. They're not doing well, right? Obviously, if their stock is dropping 16% here today. But they actually announced a $650 million stock offering to fund the acquisition of Hawthorne Airport over in Los Angeles is what they want to do. Archer Aviation is edging closer to get that certification that they need for the electric aircraft. So they're getting closer to that side, but they're planning to provide taxi services for the 2028 Olympics, as we told you about a few months ago here at McCollum on Business. So now they're trying to buy an airport out there, and the potential of the stock offering that they have is obviously going to dilute the value of Archer shares. And that's the concern when you offer, $650 million stock offering. People already invested in the company will dilute unless they buy more shares out there. And that's overshadowing the news of a narrower than expected loss that Archer Aviation had in the third quarter. And it's why they're down 15.99% here today for that electric taxi, or air taxi, I should say, developer right now. So big news in that field for somebody that doesn't even have their certification, right? Microchip, technology is the next stop that we're going to look at. They're down again big today as well, 8.41% for them. Their fiscal second quarter results were, shockingly, with the stock price today, they were in line with analyst expectations. But what they did was they underwhelmed investors. They expected more from the stock. When they announced fiscal third quarter revenue guidance, well, that came in less than expected as well. That's why Microchip Technologies, big base here in Arizona as well, 8.44% down here today for them. And now let's look at that, that buy now, pay later stock. This one's a firm we're going to look at. Well, they're up today, 4.35% right now. They posted stronger than expected earnings and revenue for their third quarter. Affirm's quarterly gross merchandise volume, well, it topped the expectation levels by everybody out there for Affirm. So Affirm having some success doesn't really surprise me at all with those buy now, pay laters, especially with the economy we're dealing with right now, the inflations and all of that. Not a surprise that they're booking a lot here coming up. And later on when we come back, we're going to look at Open Door, Take Two Interactive. They're the makers of Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, another announcement yesterday from them, and then Sunrun, the residential solar panel company, one of the ones we've been keeping an eye on out there. And then we'll look at Monster Beverage to wrap up our look at the market watch here coming up later in the program. But first, let's talk a little bit. This story's just hitting the wires. So there'll be no graphics on this or anything, but consumer sentiment, the University of Michigan report. Of course, we're not getting any government reports right now. We're expecting one today, obviously not coming out. So we have to rely on these individual ones. And this is one of the reasons why the market is down here today, because there is a lot of worry over the government shutdown. And as a matter of fact, the worry over that surged in the early part of November, according to this reporting. So consumer sentiment is at its lowest in more than 3 years here today, and just off its worst level ever on top of that. Yes, the University of Michigan survey was released this morning, and their monthly index of consumer sentiment, well, it posted a reading of 50.3 for the month. That indicates a decline of 6.2% and about 30% from a year ago on top of it. 30% decline from a year ago. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones, they'd been looking for a 53 number after October came in at 53.6. So big drop here in the consumer sentiment line. Sentiment was last this low in June of 2022. That was when the inflation was at its highest level in 40 years. And that was that 8-9% level back then. November's reading was the second lowest going back to at least 1978 in this University of Michigan study out there. So government shutdown causing a lot of consumer worry out there. Of course, the government shutdown's on everybody's mind right now, and concerns about that ongoing, shutdown there in Washington. Well, it topped the consumers' fears when they asked them specific items. So it did outweigh a boost in sentiment from fresh record highs in stock prices. So people are happy about stock prices, not happy about the government shutdown. So the current conditions index slid to 52.3. This doesn't look ahead. This is the actual current one. This was down 11% from last month and the lowest in its history going back to 1951. Future expectations measure, well, it also fell. It went down to 49.0. That's down 2.6% for the future outlook. On a year-to-year earlier basis, the two measures both slumped as well. 18.2% for current, 36.3% for future is what they were at. Measures of inflation, they held relatively in check. As we see, inflation is kind of steady right now. It's a drop in the longer-term outlook is what people are expecting, that inflation will come down here as we look ahead. The outlook for 1 year from now, well, it went higher to 4.7%. The 5-year measure, though, was at 3.6%. That was 0.3 percentage points down for that 5-year measure. So that reporting that's all we've got because no government reports are coming out. But that number, this report right here is leading with this consumer sentiment side of things. The stock market lower today, along with the tech struggles, the AI struggles that we're seeing here on the marketplace. And then, consumer shutdowns going. President Trump's meeting with the Hungarian president right now. Well, and then we find this out. The Congressional Budget Office, they came out yesterday. They confirmed that their computers had been hacked. That's a big deal, folks, because that basically means there's potential of disclosing important government data and information to the people that hacked it. Obviously, those are malicious actors if they're hacking that. This is a small government office, and 275 employees who worked there at that time. What the CBO does is they provide supposedly objective, impartial analysis to support lawmakers during the budget process. These are the people that come out and say if somebody's floating something for a budget, they rate it, and they say, what will it do for it? Will it add to the deficit? Will it take it away? This is that side of the government as well. This CBO is required to produce a cost estimate for nearly every bill that's approved by a House or Senate committee, and it will weigh in earlier when asked to do so by lawmakers. So a spokesperson for the CBO did say in a written statement that the agency, quote, has identified the security incident They've taken immediate action to contain it, and then they've implemented additional monitoring and new security controls to further protect the agency's systems going forward, unquote. So the Washington Post actually came out, and the CBO did not confirm this, but the Washington Post said when they wrote a story about this hack, well, they stated that the intrusion was done by suspected foreign actors, which means other governments acting in on getting this information. So the Washington Post cited four anonymous people familiar with this hack there. The CBO, as I said, did not confirm that. But if you don't know, so they have all this stuff, they do the government stuff, but the CBO also manages a lot of massive data sources. So a lot of this is on policy issues. For instance, they control and in these computers, they have the Trump administration's mass deportation plans. They even go so far as the, implementation of the tariffs out there on countries around the world that we're seeing. President Trump and his administration do as well. They also handle massive tax and spending cuts passed into law this summer. They have that in that computer. This is information foreign governments would love to get their hands on. And we don't know what information they've gotten, but we do know the CBO was in fact hacked here. So something to keep an eye on what got out there, and maybe we'll find out who was in charge of that there. And let's go from the public sector. Let's get into the private sector here as well. And officially yesterday, the long battle is done, at least this portion of it. Yes, Tesla shareholders did vote yesterday, and they actually approved Elon Musk as the CEO, his $1 trillion pay package. It's the largest, if you can't guess this, it's the largest executive compensation plan ever, and ever on record. Shareholders voted to approve this compensation package. 75% voted in favor at that company's annual meeting there in Austin, Texas. Under the pay plan, this was the one that was proposed in September. There's another one that's still tied up in lawsuits, etc. But this one was proposed in September. Musk is going to receive up to about 12% of Tesla stock. That would be subject to restrictions and worth about $1 trillion is what they're looking at. That's how you get to that number. He's not getting a $1 trillion check, from the company. So Tesla has to reach a market capitalization of $8.5 trillion. And then there's other, milestones in there he has to hit over a 10-year period in order to qualify for that $1 trillion deal. And, it stages up to it with different goals. Tesla's current market valuation is about $1.45 trillion. So a long ways to go to get to that $8 trillion. Musk currently owns about 13% of the company's outstanding shares. The revised compensation plan was put forward about that, despite the legal uncertainty that's out there over the $56 billion pay package that he was awarded back in 2018. That one's been through the court process numerous times. It was basically voided by a Delaware judge back in January of 2024. It's still in litigation. The board's approved it. So is there going to be a lawsuit here on the $1 trillion one? It's kind of what we looked at. Tesla's board chair, her name is Robin Delhorm. They had warned shareholders that the company could lose Elon Musk to his other entrepreneurial pursuits if his pay package isn't approved. Kind of put the gauntlet down and said, do you want Elon Musk part of this company or do you not? Is basically what the chair had said, and they voted it as 75% clip there for Elon Musk moving forward. And then we woke up yesterday morning, the gambling world. This is a big story because of ESPN involved in this. But ESPN and their gambling side is a minor player in the online gambling world of sports. But we woke up this morning and we saw that ESPN had severed ties with Penn Entertainment. This is what got the ESPN bet site up. It was supposed to be a 10-year deal, only lasted 2 years with Penn Entertainment out there. And then about an hour after they announced that they're leaving Penn and canceling that deal, well, ESPN came out and they said they announced they're going to partner with DraftKings, a lot larger company out there in terms of that gambling space. So starting next month in December, DraftKings will be the exclusive sportsbook and odds provider for ESPN. A full rollout of the two working together will happen next year, according to the release. DraftKings will be featured in ESPN's app. ESPN Bet will shift to a sports betting content brand with DraftKings. So that is happening in that gambling space. Penn is moving under the score, as what I was reading, to try their hand there. Penn has failed miserably, one with Barstool and now with ESPN. And it's just that Penn, in my eyes, is not a good company in that gambling space. But big news there, at least between companies there in that gambling side of things. And just kind of an end of an era here as well, because this is a 208-year-old publication. You know, a lot of people reference it, etc., but it was out for farmers, gardeners, people in that field and everything. You know, people that want to predict the weather, right, is what we have used this publication for the last 208 years. It's been relied on for guidance, and it'll be publishing for the final time here coming up. Yes, the Farmer's Almanac said yesterday that its 2026 edition will be its last one. They cited growing financial challenges of producing and distributing the book in today's, they used a chaotic media environment, unquote, is what they had said. It just, got to be online. You got to, are you getting sponsorships for it? Things like that to pay for it is kind of the question, right? Access to the online version will cease next month. This is the main-based Farmer's Almanac out there. There is another one that is older, the Old Farmer's Almanac. That actually comes out of New Hampshire. The one that's closing up now is in Maine as well. So it was first published in 1818 is when it came out. For centuries, it's been used as a secret formula based on sunspots, planetary positions, lunar cycles. They do all that stuff to generate long-range weather forecasts. The almanac also contains gardening tips, trivia, even jokes, folks. They even do natural remedies, things like catnip as a pain reliever or elderberry syrup as an immune booster. The main thing it's known for is the weather forecast is what makes a lot of the headlines there that are going away. Both publications were among hundreds of almanacs that served the nation of farmers over 2 centuries ago. Most were regional publications, and very few of them still exist out there. Obviously, with computers and things of that effect, you don't need the planetary alignments and stuff as much with the computers. But a piece of history going away here after this year. And now let's move over to something a lot more serious here. And this is part of the concern with AI, right? I mean, we joke around a lot here how artificial intelligence will take over the world. We've all seen Terminator movies, etc. But this is a real deal here where OpenAI is now facing 7 lawsuits against it. Yeah, these lawsuits claim that ChatGPT, the AI system there of OpenAI, that ChatGPT drove people to suicide. And not only that, but some people went to harmful delusions even when they had no prior mental health issues when using ChatGPT. This lawsuit was filed yesterday in California state courts. They allege wrongful death, assisted suicide, involuntary manslaughter, even negligence of OpenAI and specifically ChatGPT. It was filed on behalf of 6 adults and 1 teenager by the Social Media Victims Law Center. And then also the Tech Justice Law Project got involved with this as well. These lawsuits claim that the OpenAI knowingly released GPT-4o prematurely, despite internal warnings within the company that it was dangerously sycophantic and psychologically manipulative. They actually have emails I was reading of the internal communications warning that they are this way. 4 of the victims died by suicide. A couple other ones came close to doing it. One I saw survived the suicide attempt as well. So, look, this stuff can be dangerous and manipulative out there, and these companies have to figure that out as they go forward. And we see our first lawsuit over this with OpenAI there because of a ChatGPT, and just terrible news there. And we got to get these companies on top of that. And when we come back here at McCollum on Business, we keep it rolling here. We're going to look at Open Door Take-Two Interactive. Yeah, another announcement for them on Grand Theft Auto yesterday. We'll talk about that. Look at their stocks, Sunrun, and then Monster Beverage. We'll see how they're doing out there in terms of their stock. What's happening with that company? All that and more. Come on back. McCollum on Business, Friday edition. And we're back here, McCollum on Business Friday edition. Appreciate you joining me here. Of course, we are live here at 11 o'clock on Robat TV. As soon as we're done here, we publish this here to Robat TV for On Demand. Then it is also available on our YouTube page where we put all the shows that we produce here as well and around the world out there. And so this show gets up on the YouTube page along with the main event, which we have that in the can earlier today. Of course, this week we had Bruce Cooper joined us on Tuesday for always a lively discussion on local sports. Coach Sheehan from Scottsdale Christian Academy, big playoff matchup tonight for them up there in Scottsdale. He joined us yesterday. Uncle Lou talked a little bit about the UFC this weekend and the NFL side. A lot of gambling talk in terms of the questions around UFC and kind of the implications of some fixed fightings on there yesterday as well. Uncle Lou's always a good listen. Yes, he talks about point spreads. Yes, he talks about that stuff. But it also gives you a unique perspective to look at sports. And look, it's helped me talk about sports a little bit in terms of that side of things, not the fan side, to help you out as well. Check that out there on the YouTube page, of course, here at Robat TV as well for you. Available now, free podcast system for that show. Just search TME Sports Show, and it comes right up for you on your favorite podcast system. Of course, the pit stop on hiatus until February when the racing shows. We'll probably do some, shows as, of course, we got the 2311 Front Row Motorsports lawsuit coming up in December. If it's not settled, we'll probably do some shows based around that and updates on it. Here in the meantime, you can find that on demand here, of course. Free podcast system at the Pit Stop Talk. Follow me on Twitter there as well, on X at the Pit Stop Talk as well, and of course on the YouTube page. And then you got the Real Matrix out there. New episode this week came out Wednesday at noon. Next episode next Wednesday at noon. So if you notice the trend there, every Wednesday at noon, you'll get a new Real Matrix. The Angry Patriot and his guests they want to open your eyes here around what's happening around the world. And if you're interested in that, catch that on demand at, of course, Robat TV. Catch it on demand on the YouTube page. And there is the free podcast version as well of that. Just search the Real Matrix on your favorite system, and that will come right up for you as well. We appreciate you joining us and watching our programming here out there. And, we're here proud to be here at Robat TV for our live stuff and getting that stuff on demand. We thank you for joining us. And with all that being said, let's get right back into that Market Watch. As I said, consumer sentiment, tech declines are just killing stocks here today on this Friday. We're going to end up down today as we're getting late into the trading day. Dow Jones right now down 275 points. S&P 500's down to 66 points. The Nasdaq's down 333 points right now. The Russell 2K, that small cap index, down 22 points for it here today. The only one kind of saving grace is in terms of these indexes and in the cryptocurrencies we look at. Bitcoin is up today about 1,300 points. Still down in that 102,000 range, 102,610. But it is at least up today and not in the red here as the day has gone on for that. So it just looks like Wednesday was a tough day for the market. Yesterday was another buyback day and then sell off today. We'll have to wait and see, right? Don't forget, Monday and Tuesday next week, no McCollum on business. Monday, I've got a Veterans Day parade I've got to attend for my son, 17-year-old Ethan there for ROTC. Tuesday, of course, markets are closed. So we'll be back on Wednesday, and maybe we have some more fun things to talk about in terms of the market here coming up. Markets are open on Monday, so we'll hopefully get some positive stuff there. Stocks we're paying attention to right now. Let's look at that online rental company, selling company. Let's look at Open Door right now for stocks to look at, and they are down big today. They were at 30% down earlier today here for them as well. So I'm sorry, I apologize. They're down about 3%. I am adding numbers to stuff now. 3% earlier today, 3.12% right now for Open Door. The reason why they're doing this, well, this is where the 30% comes in. Quarterly sales for them dropped by over 30% for Open Door. They have a new CEO out there, and the new CEO basically came out and pitched a new turnaround strategy for the company. He said that he's, quote, refounding Open Door as a software and AI company moving forward, trying to turn them around. But 3.28% down here today after a big quarterly sales miss there, or down amount for Open Door Technologies. Next up, Take-Two Interactive. This is the parent company of the video game Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto VI, as I like to say it, right? 6 is coming out. Well, maybe. They've delayed it multiple times. They announced yesterday another delay to that release there of the popular game. Their stock's down 9.22% right now based off of that there. So what are they pushing it back to now? I mean, it should have been out by now. They pushed it back years. Well, now they're saying November of 2026 is when it's looking to come out. And what this is telling me about the game is it's telling me it's not good. They're struggling with getting it good, and they aren't happy with it, and that's the delay here coming up. Not good that they keep delaying it. People are going to lose interest, and it better be good when it comes out, or people will lose the interest even quicker. But that's what's happening with probably your friends and your kids' favorite games out there. Next up, we're going to look at Sunrun, their residential solar power company. They do battery storage as well. Well, they reported their third quarter results. And they're down 17.58%. The numbers, the rebates and stuff that come with residential solar expired December 31st. So those are ending. If you haven't got in line yet, you're probably not getting that solar before those credits go away. So it's probably sales are down because of that. We're seeing that on the car side as well. Well, Sunrun said that subscriber additions were 30,104. 1% decrease compared to the third quarter of 2024. Obviously, that means revenue. That means money coming into them. Sunrun taking a big hit today, 17.58% here today. And then finally, we'll end up looking at stocks here today with Monster Beverage, right? It's Friday. It's, midday here. You're kind of lagging a little bit like I am, waiting to just watching that clock to get out of work. Well, Monster Energy is up 5.17% now. Right now, they beat top and bottom lines for the third quarter, which means you guys are buying Monster Energy out there and not cutting back on that at all. Monster reported adjusted earnings of 56 cents per share. Expectation was only 48 cents per share. Their revenue was $2.2 billion. Well, their expectation was $2.11 billion in revenue on that side. So they beat both of those numbers, and that's why Monster Energy, and you guys are probably buying it if you like energy drinks, 5.23% up here today. And let's get into a few local stories here. But before we get into the local story, I forgot. Let's talk a little bit about Boeing here. Just an update, and it is now official. Boeing will not face a criminal conspiracy charge over two of those 737 MAX jetliner crashes that happened. Yeah, these are the ones that killed over 346 people between the two of them. Yes, a federal judge in Texas came out yesterday and granted the government's request to dismiss the case. As part of the deal to drop, though, they're not scathing out free, right? They do have some things to do, but part of the deal to drop the charge, Boeing agreed to pay or invest an additional $1.1 billion in fines, compensation for the crash victims' families, and also internal safety and quality measures, put into the production as well as planes that are out flying right now as well. This agreement lets Boeing choose its own compliance consultant instead of getting an independent monitor. I don't know if I like that. But that's part of this deal moving forward. Prosecutors said Boeing deceived government regulators about a flight control system that was later implicated in those fatal crashes. The ruling comes after an emotional hearing in September in Fort Worth, Texas. That was where relatives of some of the victims urged the judge there to reject the deal and instead appoint a special prosecutor to oversee this. Now it's been done. The judge has signed off on it, but some of the victims' families, they do plan to appeal the judge's decision and keep this alive and keep fighting, obviously, for the victims and their family members involved in those crashes moving forward. And we'll have to wait for more specifics on that story. That's all we had. So we don't know, what the fines are, etc. I have a feeling they're going to come in a little bit light, is what we're going to be looking at compared to what they probably should be out there. And so that is happening right now as an update. And this is interesting here as well. Get a little morbid here as well, but on this Friday. And the numbers of Arizona families specifically choosing either burial or cremation, well, a lot of people are growing and moving to the side of cremation over burial. This is all according to a recent survey of funeral homes. Arizona's cremation rate is expected to increase to just over 91% by 2045. That's a big jump coming up. This report by the National Funeral Directors Association looked at several trends that are happening. So in Arizona, cremation rates continue to climb, putting the state among the top 3 in the coming years in the United States. Yes, so it's growing popular here as well. But why are they all choosing cremation and moving forward as well? And there's a lot of reasons why, but families can be geographically separated, and if you're buried, it's obviously harder to go visit. Whereas in an urn, you can just take them with you. You can move them with you. Religious practices and religious changes are leading to this big trend as well as we go forward. More Western states, interesting enough, favor cremation versus the Southern states do. Southern states do see more traditional burials, and it's not the changes aren't happening like they are out here in the West, here in Arizona. But at the same time, the industry is seeing a shortage in funeral service workers. People aren't going into that field as much as they used to as well. The employment in the funeral industry is projected to grow only 4% from 2023 to 2033 in that time frame. And I can tell you this, I know when my grandmother, 10 years ago now, she was well into her late 90s and everything. And when she left, a lot of the funeral homes, especially like smaller ones, were being bought up by bigger ones out there. So there's a lot of consolidation going on. And I wonder if that's just keeping people from going into that area out there. But in the West, making some changes here after life. And I find that fascinating that we're dealing with. And, just as a follow-up here, we told you yesterday about the FAA saying airports have to cut back their services to get ahead of these problems with the government shutdown, with the flight, not just TSA, but the flight people as well. Well, We do know Sky Harbor is one of those 40 major airports that are going to see the effects of the flight reduction during the government's shutdown. So, this is an unprecedented order from the FAA to scale flights back. It's taking effect here today. We told you 4% back today, and it grows up to 10% over the next couple days and goes to 10%, stays and keeps growing over time until this shutdown ends coming up here as well. So, obviously, this is leaving a lot of question marks for travelers. They're trying to find backup travel plans with the ones that they currently have out there. The FAA if you remember, says 4% down today. It ramps up to 10% by November 14th was the date I was trying to remember there. So all commercial airlines, they're not singling out individual airlines. Sky Harbor is one of them. It's the 40 major airports out there. Obviously, Sky Harbor is part of that. I did see 700 flights were canceled as of today nationwide just on the cutback today. It was the number that I had saw earlier today out there. And if that's just 4%, what's 10%, right, going to be? You can do the math. But we're talking large swaths of commercial airlines and flights not going out there. So one, check with your airline before you head to the airport. Two, have a backup plan and pack your patience here. Here's the problem, right? It's November 7th. If this government shutdown does not end soon, because it's going to take time to ramp it back up, if it doesn't end soon, we're going to the Thanksgiving holiday. Are people not going to travel because of the fears? Are people going to try to travel despite all the issues and clog it up a little bit more? Because it's going to take time to ramp up. So it's not like if this ends in another week and a half, it's just going to start working good right after that. So, yeah, be ready for the holidays, folks, is what I'm trying to tell you here as well. And then our final story here on this Friday, don't forget, Monday, Tuesday next week, McCollum on Business is off because the markets are closed on Tuesday. Monday, I have a thing with my son on a Veterans Day parade I'm going to go to. So we'll be back on Wednesday here next week, and we'll leave you with Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has applied for $1 billion in federal aid. All of that to assist rural healthcare providers. The money would come from the new Rural Health Transformation Program. We talked about this program a couple weeks ago, where lots of states are vying for this money. And we don't know where it's going to go to, how much is going to go, but they have to get their stuff in, and Katie Hobbs has done that now. Half of the $50 billion in the program funds, well, they're equally available to all states who qualify for it. The other half, though, will be split by how many states plan to follow federal mandates, things like work requirements for Medicaid recipients, the Trump administration's rules here, right, for this stuff. The program came in Trump's spending bill that Kaiser Family Foundation says aims to cut $137 billion in Medicaid dollars that's sent to the rural hospital. So this is kind of a way to make up for cutting it out of the Medicaid bills, right? A study done by the University of North Carolina, well, it says 5 Arizona hospitals are at most risk of closure because of those Medicaid cuts. And that's where this agreement, if you get the money, some of the money, would go specifically to these rural hospitals. But in Nogales, there's a hospital in Nogales. There's one in Bisbee as well. Globe is one, close to Phoenix here, right, in Globe. Page Hospital up there, and then Winslow Hospital also in danger here, according to that University of North Carolina study on those hospitals. So we'll see if the funding comes through for those rural hospitals, and something to keep an eye on here, not just with this government shutdown, but with the funding that normally comes from the federal government out there. And folks, I appreciate you joining me here on this Friday edition. Don't forget, check out our YouTube page, like and subscribe it as well. And then, of course, Robot TV here on demand for those of you with subscriptions. We thank you very much. And let's go have a great weekend. McCollum on Business will be down Monday and Tuesday. Be back on Wednesday. Main event, though, Monday and Tuesday goes off like normal out there. So come and join us, would you? And then, of course, Wednesday, The Real Matrix comes out for the next episode. So it's a busy week next week. Come and join us for our shows out there. And we'll see you then, everybody. Have a great weekend.